Yo, what is up? Welcome to Bring in the Backups. I'm your host, Erick Hellwig. On the show today, we're talking quarterback Shaun King, some glory years he had with the Tampa Bay Bucs. We also talk about their creamsicle uniforms and the gay pirate that used to be on the side of their helmet. I talk about getting an upper endoscopy, Juana Man, and the things that make me come. There's no guest on the show this time around. It's just me. We recently got back into L.A. From our cross-country trip. And, this is just kind of getting our bearings back. Good to be back home in the COVID capital of the universe currently. The show is doing great. I want to thank everybody that has been listening, telling their friends. We've seen a real uptick in listeners, which is cool. For the last two episodes, do me a favor, guys. Get yourself on Apple Podcast review. We're at 97 reviews as of recording, which means I need 3 more people to hop on there. Get me to 100. My life changes at 100. Not really. It stays exactly the same. But it'd be nice to get to 100. You know, that's a little goal. And then we work our way to 200, 300, 5,000. 1 million Apple Podcast reviews. It's doable. It's in sight. But 100's the first thing to knock down. Thank you guys for listening to the show. As always, we're going to get into the episode right now. The guest list episode. Just me talking for an hour. Can I hold it? Can I hold your attention that long? Have I held your attention this long? Are you already looking at other podcasts to listen to? Put that fucking phone down and enjoy this episode of Bring in the Backups. Appreciate you guys being here. This is Bring in the Backups with Erick Hellwig. The podcast is beginning. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the show. Good to be here. Good to be fucking alive. Jesus Christ. Can't think of anything big that's happened in the news since the last time I was here, right? I'm not going to talk politics, all right? I'm not going to do it. What I'm going to do is slowly build up to a Patreon page where there's a paywall, and then I'll talk about politics behind the paywall like a coward, but not on this show. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I don't feel like cutting the audience in half, all right? I'm trying to strike a balance here, okay? I like to see both sides of an argument, but, I'm not going on Parler, and I'm not talking politics on the show. That's how I feel. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'll probably talk politics later. I don't know. What am I going to say? It's probably going to come up at some point. It happens organically. It's in the ether. Crazy shit. I'm sure some of you have been waiting to hear my opinion on the Capitol riot. You're like, what's the guy from the podcast about backup quarterbacks going to say about an insurrection? I can't really make up my mind until I hear him talk about it. Man, if you were waiting for my take on this, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm assuming there's none of you that are doing that. But yeah, here's the thing: I don't feel the need to salve my soul of the thing. Like, just you go listen to the people you already believe. You know, go listen to Fox News or CNN and pretend like that's the fucking truth. Do whatever you're gonna do. All right, whatever. I like to keep the focus narrow on the show. We talk about backup quarterbacks. And by the way, what I just said is a lie. I don't keep the focus narrow at all. I've spent like 20 minutes on this podcast talking about my favorite colors before. Like, it's not at all focused. But I try to keep it away from the divisive stuff. So with that said, it's the Tuesday before inauguration. So there's definitely a chance you're listening to this in the back of a burned-out Denny's, huddled with your family, listening to gunshots and thinking about eating your dog. So I don't know what to say. Like, hopefully everything's fine. I'm recording this on the Sunday before I release. So it's the 18th, right? Or I should say it's the 17th right now, Sunday. This goes out on the 19th. So, I want to talk about, obviously, the podcast itself. We're going to be talking about Shaun King, and we'll get into him. He's an interesting guy, interesting career. I mean, Christ, man, the NFL playoffs have been awesome. I mean, Wild Card Weekend I put Wild Card Weekend NFL right up against the first weekend of March Madness. I love it. And to me, it highlights so much why college football, which I also love, sucks with the playoffs. I did not even watch the national championship game. Why would I? Ohio State wins 6 games, and they get to play in the national championship. It's a joke that that's how they think the playoffs should be. They just choose the team they think is the best. Alabama would crush Coastal Carolina, so why even let them play? Yeah, that's a good attitude for competitive sports. Remember that movie Miracle where Russia just doesn't even play the USA because they're going to kick their ass anyway, and you know who needs to watch the game? That was fun, wasn't it? They use the argument. They're like, well, look, they beat them 9 out of 10 times. It's like, well, I'd like to watch to see if maybe it's the one time they don't. Like, that's kind of the whole fucking point of sports, is you got to play the other team. Oh, what a joke. But the NFL did it right, man. Adding a 7th team was awesome. I loved every game. I loved it from the wild card weekend, and then this weekend. Dude, I mean, if we're going to talk backups on this show, we're going to talk about Chad Henne. Look at this old motherfucker coming in for the best quarterback maybe ever. Probably will be the best quarterback ever when all's said and done. Mahomes goes down. Henne steps up. I said it on Twitter, man. I think the Chiefs are probably better off at this point just trading Patrick Mahomes and building around Chad Henne for the next 6 months before he shatters his hip. That's what I would do. And that's serious. That's my real take. Now, I love watching, I was rooting for the Browns. Here's the thing. I was totally rooting against, even though I'm a sucker for backups. I mean, how do you not love Baker, what he's done in the playoffs? But, man, that game was awesome. I mean, they obviously got to change both those rules, man. They got to change the helmet-to-helmet you can review. I'm not going to sound like an old man when they complain about football. They're putting dresses on them. I don't want people not remembering their kids when they're 35. So I'm all for making helmet-to-helmet reviewable in the NFL. You got to do that. That's got to be a reviewable play. Of course, we're talking about Higgins fumbling out of the back of the end zone. But why do you lose possession when you do that? It could be a penalty, but that seems like such a overreaction. It just reminds me of like draconian surf law where you steal a loaf of bread in town and like the feudal lord that runs you. I don't know where we are in the 1800s right now where these terms are correct. But like where somebody like steals a loaf of bread and then you chop their hand off. Isn't that Aladdin? Isn't the guy's gonna got a sword? I don't know. Whatever. Those rules got to change. But even with that, man, the Browns, old Browns would have sat down and lied and let that be into the game, man. But they fought back. That was a great game. I love the Bills game. I love the defense in the Bills-Ravens game. Oh, that was good. I wish Lamar can get over the hump. I know he won one playoff game, but, man, that was a great game. The backup came in for that game, too, right? With the what's his name? The guy from he's a rookie from Utah. I can't remember his name. I think it's Huntley. Yeah, the guy from Utah. After Lamar Jackson, their depth chart goes Robert Griffin III. They got Trace McSorley, who's from Penn State, who I liked a lot in college, and he's played really well, too, whenever Jackson's been out. But they were both injured. They called up Huntley from the practice squad from Utah, and the dude looks good, man. He kind of plays like Lamar. He can move around. He was making plays happen. I mean, I liked him a lot, too, man. I mean, I'm a sucker, guys. As soon as the backup comes in and completes 2 passes in a row, I'm like, burn it all down. This is your new guy. And give the backup a chance. And I'm not even going to get in. Well, of course I am. I'm leading into it right now. Heineke, for the team of football players currently assembled in the Washington, D.C. area. Is that the full name? Did I get it? I'm like throwing to my sidekick who doesn't exist right now. Did I get that, man? Like looking for his approval? I'm just staring at a wall 2 feet in front of my face. Yeah, Heineke was amazing. He was so good in that game. And all the players afterwards are like, can he be our quarterback, please? Nothing against Alex Smith, but, I can't watch Alex Smith play football for another full season. It's nothing against his skill. Like, he's fine. He's a game manager type. He's got talent. Like, if you surrounded him with players, I'm sure he'd be fine. But, like, I'm like a nervous Nelly when this dude's on the field. as soon as the pocket starts to collapse around Alex Smith, I have 35 heart attacks. I'm like, please stay away from his leg. This dude was walking on what looked like a half-eaten turkey leg from a Thanksgiving dinner, and now he's playing professional football. It's too much. Get somebody else in there. I loved Heineke, man. I hope he at least sticks around. He better stick around on the team next year. I mean, he earned that with, going toe-to-toe with Brady in the playoffs. I mean, Christ, that was awesome. My backup boner was like a diamond dick for the last couple days, man. I'm telling you, this was great. This was great football. Like, it's just like, if you're a football fan, this should have... I'll be honest, man. Like, I'm an Eagles fan, and when the Eagles aren't in it, sometimes I tune out. Like, I'm not a huge football fan, which is so funny to admit on this podcast that's based on football. I love football, but I can build a life without it when my team sucks and is boring. And here's the thing, it's not even just when the team sucks, because I can watch a team that sucks and dream on the future and dream on young guys. It's when a team sucks and the management is a nightmare and there's no direction to it. Like, I watched every game when the Sixers were tanking. I thought that was fascinating because it had a direction. They were intentionally in a death spiral. But when the team sucks and it's old and doesn't even have the vision to suck on purpose, I'm like, it's hard not to check out. But man, I'm telling you, these playoffs got me so into it. And every team that's coming in now, last 4 games, we got the team set, right? Aaron Rodgers with the Packers versus Tom Brady and the Bucs. Great game. Great game. Cannot wait to see that game. Going to root for the Packers, but, if Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl with a new team, that would be amazing too. And he's evil. It's like watching Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One. You're like, dude, somebody kill this guy. But no one's going to kill. You can't kill him. That's going to be a great game. And then Bills-Chiefs. It's going to be a great game too. And if Chad Henne starts, all of a sudden I got to root for the Chiefs. I don't even like Chad Henne, but he's a backup. Now he's one of my guys. As soon as you're a backup, you have this podcast's full stamp of approval. And then it's going against the Bills. Bills who lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. I mean, who's not rooting for the city of Buffalo with what they've gone through, right? Yeah, I think it must have been it was the wild card weekend, the Bills. They started to give it up a little bit at the end. The game was closer. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, as a student of history, I don't trust the Bills defense here to hold up in the playoffs. Seen a little bit too much from the Bills defense in old NFL videos to know that they're not great in the playoffs with everything on the line. So, but yeah, man, I'm rooting for them. I feel like there's a story with every team. It's great, man. It is great. I had to run errands today during the Browns-Chiefs game, which was infuriating. I had to go pick up my medicine from CVS, and they were taking so long, I left without my medicine to come back and finish the game. I was like, I'm not missing the fourth quarter. I'm listening to the game on my headphones. It's taking 20 minutes. They're going through my insurance. I'm like, call me when the medicine's ready. Go back to my house. I'm not doing it. And there is something nice, man. I got to say. I do it a lot with baseball, but I haven't done it in football where you can listen on your phone to games, just the radio. But it does, bring you back a little bit to, I remember listening to, I'd listen to Eagles games when I was in the car with my dad. You have to picture what's happening as they're talking to you. And you get a good announcer, a good color analyst. It's cool because you get to kind of paint the game in your mind. Versus just watching it on TV like a fucking drone in Batman Forever when Jim Carrey puts the shit on your forehead. Let's see what's in his head on the box. I like picturing it. It's like a book. It's not like a book. That's a dumb person being listening to a football game is like reading a book. That's clearly spoken like somebody who doesn't read a lot of books. I'm on a high from the games. I thought it was awesome. Hopefully you guys got a chance to watch them too, man. It was some good stuff. All right. So that's us catching up on current events. the fucking Capitol got invaded by rioters, and catching up on current events is, talking about Chad Henne. I love this fucking show. We're going to get into our subject for the episode, which is Shaun King. After our first break, everybody, how about a first break? We're going to do a bit here, a pre-planned bit. You guys are familiar with the show. Sometimes I do those. And this one is it's a fan favorite. You guys love it. You love it. That's how you know something's going to be good if somebody just tells you, love it. Don't make up your own mind. Enjoy this. Bringing the Backups presents Letters Home from the Bench. September 19th, 2008. Deanna Thigpen writes,
Dearest Tyler, it's your bride, Deanna, addressing you on the eve of battle with the Philadelphia Eagles. As of yet, not one soul on your team, the Chiefs, has deciphered our pressing confidence that you, Tyler Thigpen, lost your leg in a line-den calamity this summer, and that I have cloaked myself in your garb and taken up your football charge in a reverse Juwanna Man scheme. Please be cocksure in the matter. I safeguard your good name in circadian cadence. I heave scoring catches afresh. I howl huddle commands in earnest. I honor you on hallowed gridiron with my final breath. Kiss the children for me, Tyler. With hearts distanced, undivided, yours, Deanna.
Special thanks to my wife, comedian Liz Galalis. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter at Liz Galalis. You guys remember the movie Juwanna Man? I don't remember the movie at all, except for that it's a dude who pretends to be in the WNBA. Here's the thing about those movies. It's just so funny that that's like a trope. Those were like movies there was like a whole bunch of movies that came out where somebody has to pretend to be the opposite sex, and at some point there's a scene where they're in the locker room and they're trying not to look at tits and ass or dicks. And then, like, they get found out, but they have, like, a love interest on the other team who lets them, like, feel their titties or something, and then they get found out in the beginning of the third act, and then they end up dating the person they lied to. I'm assuming that's what happens in Juwanna Man, because it happens in, like, every other movie with that setup. What a funny... I don't think they could make Juwanna Man now. I'm pretty sure he's done. Not just, like, in the WNBA when that's found. I'm pretty sure we cancel him, right? Juwanna Man. Good classic movie. And I got to rewatch it because, like I said, I really do not remember much other than he's in a locker room full of players in the WNBA. And I'm assuming he starts dating one of them. That's got to be what happens. You guys can fact check this, in real time as you're listening, but there's no way he doesn't bang somebody on his WNBA team in Juwanna Man. That's got to be what happens. That's my guess. Everybody always acts like, oh, how could they have done this? It's like, that's just the way it was. Back in the day, it was seen as comical to pretend to be a woman and be on a WNBA team. It's like when people pull up that, God, like every fucking Instagram star wants to do like a Baby It's Cold Outside remix when Christmas comes along. Isn't this song terrible? It's like, that's how they flirted back then. That's not like a rapey song in 1950. Chicks couldn't just say, I want to get boned. Bone me out. There was no Guys We Fucked podcast. Like, that didn't exist in the 1950s. You had to pretend, oh, my mom will be waiting. And the guy's like, oh, but it's cold. Like, that's a love story in the 1950s. You ever hear your grandparents talk about how they met? Holy Christ. He, like, comes back from the war. She's graduating 4th grade. You're like, what happened? I don't want to know how it started. I don't know. Whoever wrote Juwanna Man, great work. Congratulations. I hope your dreams of Juwanna Man 2 in 2021 probably aren't going to come around, but thanks for the laughs. Shaun King. All right, let's get to it. Shaun King, of course, we're going to be talking about the political activist Shaun King. Now, come on. Sean Earl King. This guy played at Tulane. He's a Tulane quarterback from like 94 to 98, or 95 to 98. And then get this, in 1998, takes the Tulane Green Wave, who at the time was playing in Conference USA, to an undefeated season, which they hadn't done for like 35 years and have obviously not gone anywhere close since. I love Tulane football, by the way. They got a cool logo with that little like wave that's like surfing on himself. I watched like the history of Tulane's 1998 season. I mean, Shaun King looks good. In college, he's got the arm strength you need. He can move around. The team has a bunch of these like really close wins. I've said before, and I'm an Army football fan because my father went to West Point. So I went to those games a lot. And I remembered the game in 1998 where they played. It was like a late-night game at Mikey, and I think I was watching it on TV. So I had like a weird – I wouldn't have known the quarterback when I was 13. But as I'm watching the highlights from their 98 season, I'm like, oh, I remember that game. I know what happens here. I remember that being a close game. I remember Army losing. I did not know that they went on to go undefeated. But, yeah, it was a solid college career for Shaun King. Love that he's bringing some joy to the fans in New Orleans in 98. And then he gets drafted. He kind of parlays that into a second-round drafting by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1999. Tampa's kind of starting to reemerge in the mid-'90s, right? They got Warren Sapp. The quarterback is Trent Dilfer. Oh, Trenty Dilfs. Holy crap. He's the worst quarterback in 1999. Again, researching the pod. I'm looking up. I watched those, like, the 1999 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's all, oh, my God, Harry Callis. I almost forgot a guy that was the voice of my childhood. Harry Callis narrates all the old NFL season in review, where he just puts a positive spin on every shitty team in the NFL, even if you go 2-14. He's like, the Carolina Panthers are building for the future. And it's like they just show like the two games. They don't look like absolute dog shit. But in 99, I watched the Trent Dilfers, and he's horrible. The team is like, please put in, I think Erick Zier was the second-string quarterback, and then Shaun King, he's third. They keep Dilfer in for like half the season. The defense is, like the games they're winning are like 6-3 and 4-2. Just like they're the worst offense. Even though they got Mike Allstott and work done in the backfield, arguably, I mean, those are two borderline Hall of Fame players. And then I remember like while they're reviewing, they go like they're in game 5 and they're like, finally the offense holds its own and explodes against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then at the bottom it shows the final score, 17-10. 17 points is an offensive explosion. God, this team was brutal to watch. It's got to be one of the most boring Super Bowl teams. I mean, if you love defense, great, but I mean, that's a bad offense. Anyway, King gets in halfway through the 99 season, and the offense gets like minimally better. I did remember like they start throwing out, here comes Jaquez Green and tight end Dave Moore. I'll be doing terrible Harry Callis impressions for the rest of this. But yeah, like I start to recognize some of the names of the receivers. They get Keyshawn in 2000, which was supposed to be like now we're on our way. And 2000 is Shaun King's real opportunity, right? He throws 18 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, plays like okay, has a couple solid games. He's got like one game against the Rams where they make like a couple incredible plays to win to get into the playoffs. Yeah, so he's like okay. At the end of the 99 season recap, Harry Callis is like, they have Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks, the best linebacker in the game. John Lynch is a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. And then they go to Shaun King and they go, and Shaun King will try to get better. Like, that's the most positive spin they can give Shaun King. It's like, he's going to give her the old college try. So 2000 comes around. He's okay. And when I watch the 2000 Buccaneers story. It's Harry Callis again. The 2000 Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a team of destiny. The whole time, they're showing clips of Shaun King, but they're not mentioning Shaun King. They're mentioning, like, the players catching passes from him. I'm like, why aren't they talking about the guy that is the quarterback? That's so weird. And then at the end of it, they go, the 2001 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are primed for success. Brad Johnson's the new... I was like, oh, they made the package after they already had brought in Brad Johnson for 2001. So they don't even say Shaun King's name the entire time, summing up the season, even though he was a starter for 16 games. But let me tell you something. I looked up his stats. I know what he did in 2000. And he wasn't that good. Here's his total career. His total NFL stats. 27 touchdowns, 24 interceptions, 4,500 yards, a quarterback rating of 73.4. This man, look at that. That's right up our alley. And then his Arena League stats. Ooh, look at that. 27 touchdowns and 8 picks. Quarterback rating of 95-19. Why are their quarterback ratings look like we're calling in a fucking bomb strike on Saudi Arabia? What is that? What is 95-19? That's got to be a Wikipedia error. And then 2 rushing touchdowns. All right. Anyway, he's a backup after the 2000 season, right? They get rid of Dungy too. They trade. I think they traded with Oakland to get the head coach, right? John Gruden. Gruden comes in. They go to like the wild card game in 2001 and lose to the Eagles, baby. Eagles, baby. And then 2002, they win the Super Bowl. And then they suck again. But, whatever. They got a Super Bowl. That's good for them. And then for our guy, Shaun King, after that, so he backs up Brad Johnson basically for 3 years. And in 2004, he goes to the Cardinals. And it's weird, on his Wikipedia page, it says, in his first start against Carolina, he threw for 347 yards, which was a season high for the Cardinals. And I'm like, oh, why didn't he get a shot with Arizona? He only got the one season. They let him go. But then I realized that I looked at the game, and he threw 3 interceptions. And all the yards came after they lost like 35-10. That's why, numbers don't tell the whole story, right? You gotta look and you gotta do a little deeper dive. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because this is one of the only times in podcast history where I actually did do a deeper dive. Because I usually would just be like, threw for 347 yards, give the man a chance. It was actually kind of interesting when he was on the Cardinals 2004. The Cardinals were playing okay. Like they were 500 at the end of the season, which did not happen a lot. And the quarterback was Josh McCown, who was young. That was like the team he was drafted on. You might even remember 2003, like McCown threw that Hail Mary in Week 17 to knock the Vikings out of the playoffs. So the coach, Dennis Green, switched Shaun King for Josh McCown, even though the Cardinals were winning, and then Shaun King sucked, and then they went back to McCown, I guess, but it didn't matter. It's Cardinals quarterback history. Who gives a shit? But anyway, that was that. What does King do? Bounces around. He's with the Lions. Then he goes to the Colts. Doesn't look like he plays with either one. Then he plays on the Las Vegas Gladiators for a little bit, arena football. Then he goes to the Grand Rapids Rampage. Throws 10 touchdowns there, but the team goes 1-5. He gets released. Signs with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the Canadian Football League. I got a couple Canada listeners up there. That's you guys. But then he leaves so he can not do that anymore because it probably sucks. And I've lost all my Canadian listeners. And then it looks like I know he was a running backs coach up or down with the South Florida Bulls. But then they got rid of him last year. And now he's like coaching at some like private school in Florida. I saw that. So that's what he's up to right now. And I also didn't know this, that he's from St. Petersburg, Florida. So when he was with the Bucs, that was a hometown kid. That's a hometown quarterback. That's a pretty cool story. He made the most out of what was probably not real NFL talent. So, good for him. Good for Shaun King. Like I've got love for him. And he did have some athleticism in the pocket, right? He could move around a little bit. There was one play where like they had to get a first down and like Warwick Dunn was trapped in the backfield and just like threw it to Shaun King and he made a bunch of guys miss and got a first down. If you selectively look at all these backup quarterbacks, you can go, this guy could have been something with a shot. You can say about anybody. Somebody said that on my YouTube page. I post these up on YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube, by the way. Just youtube.com/C/Erick Hellwig. The letter C. I don't know why it makes people do that. And maybe you can just type in Erick Hellwig. It'll work. I don't know. Go to my fucking YouTube page. You'll figure it out. ErickHellwig.com. The link's there. But people have been commenting on the quarterback videos, and they're saying things like, Coy Detmer, man, never got a chance. Would have started on any other team. And I'm like, I love it so much because it's clearly not true. But it's so the vibe of the show to just say it and just feel like, yeah, fuck it. He could have been it. He could have started anywhere. He would have beaten out Brett Favre. It was just the fact that he was behind McNabb. That's the only reason Coy Detmer is not a household name. Playing quarterback until he's 45. I'm telling you, keep those clearly factually incorrect statements on my YouTube videos coming. They bring me so much joy. Here's my sister. If you want something done right, you need to do it yourself. Unless it's telling your audience how to support your podcast, because that shit gets old real quick. I think you should outsource it. And that's what I've done. Welcome to My Friends and Family Plug My Show. These are real people with real reasons why you should support me. I hope you listen, I hope you hear, and I do hope you support.
Erick's podcast is upsetting me. I'm his sister, and I barely listen to it because he sounds super depressed on it. I'm managing my own emotions, and I don't want to hear my brother slowly realizing that his comedy dreams are crumbling in his hands, like he's clutching sand in his palms on a windy day. So go to ErickHellwig.com and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use. And if you are on Apple Podcast, please rate the show 5 stars and write a quick review. Erick, I'm worried about you when I listen to the show. I don't remember you being this angry growing up.
Thanks, sis. That website, ErickHellwig.com. Check it out. By the way, we're going to get back into the Shaun King, other stuff to talk about in a second, but you guys know, if you go on Apple Podcasts right now, I'm at 97 reviews. 97. I need 3 of you assholes to go on Apple Podcasts and leave me a 5-star. Get me to 100, all right? Get me to 100. You can do it. Help me out. I think what I'm going to do is once I get to 100, I'm going to put like a goal for 200. I'm going to be like, when I get to 200, I'm going to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but like I need to give like an incentive for people to go review the podcast. And I was thinking like maybe I could like run a 40. Like that would be funny. It also gives me like a couple months probably to get in shape for it. But yeah, maybe I'll run a 40 and I'll put it on YouTube, or I'll do like the cone drill. I'll just do some stuff that guys have to do at the combine. But you can just watch like an out of shape 35-year-old white guy eat shit doing it. Well, maybe that'll be it. I'll think of something. If you have an idea, by the way, an idea of what you'd like to see me do when we get to 100 reviews, which we're going to get to. When this episode comes out, I know you guys are going to respond in a big way. But we'll get to 100, and then from 100 to 200, every week I'll be like, we're at this number of reviews, we're this close to 200, and when we get to 200, you're going to see fill in the blank. If you want to fill in that blank for me, now's the time. You can email me. Email the show, ErickHellwigComedy@gmail.com. That's ErickHellwigComedy@gmail.com. You're going to email me. Just put in the title, Chris Evans dick pic, and I'll know that it's actually a suggestion for a 200 review YouTube video of me embarrassing myself. I do have some cool stuff for the show lined up. You know, I don't want to tease it, but I do want to tease it. What I'm saying is I have some ideas for ways that people can support the show. And those are going to be hopefully up and running by the next show, which will be dropping, at some point in early February. So hopefully I got it for you then. If not, it'll definitely be the one after. But I want to be giving people, I've had some actual fans, people that don't share my blood, have been telling me they like the show and they want to support. So I have some stuff coming up that you guys can do. So, yeah, I'll obviously keep you posted on there. And then, yeah, whatever. You guys know the rest of it. Go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, all that shit. I want to talk about a problematic thing in the NFL, okay? A thing that needs to change. And no, I'm not doing what every other comedian does, and I'm not going to spend 4 minutes letting you hear my cries for social justice. I'm going to be funny, don't worry. But what I want to do is talk about the one helmet rule. This garbage rule since 2013 is ruining the NFL. It says that you have to keep the same helmet for no matter what jersey you're wearing, you have to keep the same helmet, which limits teams from being able to put their throwbacks on, which sucks. Dude, anytime you go on YouTube and you watch like the Seahawks from the 90s, you're like, this is awesome. Can't we see that once a year? And the reason why you can't is because of this dumbass rule. So here, I'm going to make my case for it now that the one helmet rule has got to go. All right? Got to go. With the same intensity that they should be able to review helmet to helmet, that you shouldn't lose possession if you fumble reaching for the goal line, this one helmet rule needs to hit the bricks, never come back, go die in the desert. I've mentioned the Seahawks had great 90s uniforms, right? Picture John Kitna dropping back, John Freeze, whoever the fuck else was your quarterbacks. I can't think of anybody right now, but Seahawks, you're so far away. It's like you're barely... I feel like the Seahawks are like a Canadian football team that we let in the league every other year. I know that's not right, but in my mind, that's what it is. The Seattle Seahawks have won 1 Super Bowl and 3 Canadian football championships. In my mind, you're not American. But, like I said, good for you guys. Seahawks got great throwbacks. I want to see those again. The Buccaneers, we're talking about Shaun King. Shaun King never got to wear the creamsicle. For the love of God, bring back the creamsicle. I'm glad you guys got rid of your stupid alarm clock jerseys that you had. The jersey change the Bucs had for this year with Tom Brady is a step in the right direction, away from the crappy ones. But you guys have to have... I would bring the creamsicles back fully. Because some of your players, I think Mike Allscott was young enough to have worn creamsicle, Warren Sapp, some of those, guys that were playing with Shaun King that were 4th or 5th year when he was a rookie, they probably got to wear creamsicle. That's interesting. I gotta Google and see if Mike Allscott. He was one of my favorites on that Tampa Bay team. He was a fullback, and he had a neck roll, but usually people put the neck roll outside of the jersey, so it just kind of sticks up behind the helmet. He kept his under the jersey. So it just looked like he looks like Quasimodo running down the field. He looks it's like, dude, get that neck roll out of your jersey and just hang outside. It looks weird. He was a fucking load to bring down. And I think he was in his prime in the Shaun King 99, 2000. Those are some of his best seasons, leading up to that Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm assuming he got to wear the creamsicle. I love the creamsicle. I actually was researching it. I saw that Tom Brady was watching a Tampa Bay sunset, and the sky is all orange, and he's like, bring back the creamsicle. What else do you need? Let's change. They can't bring it back when they still got this stupid one helmet rule. But let's get rid of that rule, and let's at the very least get the Buccaneers an alternate creamsicle. Bring back the gay pirate too. That's the argument against bringing it back is honestly a homophobic argument. That if we're honest, that's what we all thought. We were the old Buccaneers, the guy winking with the hat and the knife in his mouth. We were like, that's gay. That's what we all said growing up. But we don't say that anymore because now being gay is not bad, right? So the number one reason to not bring back the creamsicles is invalid. Perfect. That should come back. There's literally no good argument. And look, it's guys, it's a different world. If you're still a homophobe out there, you got to knock it off. Every person in this country 18 and younger is gay. You've lost the battle. It's I don't know, man. I've had gay guys compliment me and hit on me, and I'm like, oh, I'm flattered. It used to be like, oh, my God, what a... So I say the Buccaneer, I say you lean into the gay Buccaneer and bring him back, bring back the creamsicle, lighten up the colors in the pirate ship. And here's what I would do, too. They used to have the Buccaneer winking at you in the 70s when the team was terrible. Then they changed to get that, like, the skull and crossbones flag on the helmet, which is so dumb. It's like, is this team owned by the graphic artist from Pirates of the Caribbean? Why does your helmet look like a Disney ride? But I would say, go back to the creamsicle, do a white helmet, put the flag on, but then put the gay pirate on the flag. Immediately, Tampa Bay would have the best uniforms in the NFL if they did that. I'm going hard for the creamsicle. Please, Tampa Bay, bring him back. I would like to see the Patriots' old uniforms. You know, like the old New England guy playing football. Historically, obviously inaccurate. You know, like when the Pilgrims played football. You remember that? When they weren't burning witches and giving Native Americans smallpox and being religious zealots. You know, they played football. No, I like the old, like, it was like they were red jerseys, white helmets. That was a cool throwback. I vaguely remember Brady wearing those throwbacks a couple times, but again, it would have been before 2013, before this dumbass one helmet rule. Who else we got? The Broncos. Remember the Broncos before they made the uniform change and Elway won the Super Bowls? They had, like, the light blue helmet with, like, the big D for Denver and, like, the horse peering out from the D like he's playing hide and seek. That was cool. Like to see those again. Denver's got some cool throwbacks now, but they got to keep the deep purple helmet. It's like, your helmet, your throwback helmet is not deep purple, Broncos. It's light blue. The Titans could be the Oilers again. Although I think the Titans should give that to the Houston Texans, or the Texans should try to buy it from them, but they won't, because whatever. I've already talked about it. The lady that owns the Titans doesn't view the Tennessee Titans as having anything to do with Houston. It's hers. This is my team. This is, like, that's the owner of the team. It's not the city where the team played and had fans and has jerseys and Earl Campbell was a legend. No. It's my team. Why would I give the Houston Texans the right to put an oil duct on their helmet and look cool? That's because it's just billionaire douchebaggery. But that's a throwback we get to see more. And then, of course, my Eagles. Oh, boy, that Kelly green. They came back with the Kelly green, like the white numbers and like the little silver outline on the wings on the helmet. Oh, I could die a happy man. I don't know what it is about vintagey stuff. It's like a thing in my personality, I feel, where it's like I want to feel like I have a relationship to something that nobody else has. That's why, like, when I buy shirts, I'm like, I tell my family, I'm like, for Christmas gifts, like, I'm like, don't just go to the store and buy me something Eagles that you think I'll like. Because if it's in a store, I don't like it because other people have it. Go on Etsy and find me, like, an old man that just died and his son is cleaning out his closet and has a shirt with, Ron Jaworski's number on it, but it's missing the W from his name in the back. Give me that. Give me a shirt that nobody else has. That's what I want. And so something about, like, the vintagey coming back, it feels like a more unique relationship with the team or something. I don't know. I'm overanalyzing it. I'm so amped for football. Honestly, a lot of these podcasts, it's like I out-football talk myself in the first 10 minutes, and then I'm just, complaining about putting on my socks or whatever bullshit I'm having to do in my life in that moment. But I haven't even mentioned my dog once in this podcast from, fucking 45 minutes in because I'm amped up about football. Football's been great. And college football, you could be this great too. All you got to do is set up a 16-team playoff. Not that hard, huh? Every conference winner, all 11 teams, Power 5, and then the group of 5. Having the best of the independent teams, maybe 2. And then the next 5 highest teams, non-ranked, and they all play each other. Give the first 4 teams a bye. Who gives a shit? Have a playoff. Have playoffs. Oh, I should say with college football, too, pay athletes. That way, like, the woke sports fans don't come at me. What, they should just play for free? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to make the argument they're getting an education for free, because apparently that makes you a bad person. Although they do get an education, but that's not... I'm also for them getting paid, because the universities make so much money off of them. Why shouldn't you get paid? At the very least, you should be able to, like, profit off of your likeness. Like, that's the thing that's surprising, is, like, when you're in college, you can't just go down to, like, hey, I just threw a touchdown against West Virginia. Come buy this chicken sandwich, and they hand you $500 for doing it. Like, why shouldn't you be able to do that? I don't get that. And look, if I was a college kid, they gave me my likeness, I would sell that shit anywhere they pick it up. You got, especially with football, it's like, it's different. It's not with like other jobs where like you're gonna get paid more as you get older. It's like with football, you got a window that might end the next time you step on the field. So you got to make your money while you can make your money. They're not like me, like 35 years old, setting up a fucking merch store for people. There's what I'm doing. All right, I let it out. I was gonna keep it as a surprise. I could just cut it out, but I don't want to edit this. I'm going to have a merch store, all right? And that seems, maybe that's a little presumptive. But you know what's crazy is some of you, probably most of you don't even know that I've got a character that I play that was on HET that has like thousands of followers on Instagram where people have asked me for merch. And I literally thought about it the other day. I was like, I should have a merch for my podcast. Because it's like, that's what I think of myself as a comedian. I think of myself now as like, I got a podcast, I do comedy, I do stand-up shows. I have like 3 fans from that, and I have thousands of people who saw me on national TV as Death, and that is the afterthought in my mind. Even though I create content for this Death character I do, what we do is, my wife's the producer with me, Liz Galalis. You heard her, very funny. She was on she did a little bit for us today on the show. But we shoot that stuff, like we shoot Death stuff for like an entire day, sometimes 2 days, and we line it up so that we can do it months out, right? Like all that content for Instagram or whatever. And then it's just like I line it up in my phone, and then I'm just posting what I already planned out months before. So it's weird. Like the Death stuff is coming out all the time, but it's not in the forefront of my mind except for those 2 days we shoot it. So to me, it's like this little side thing, and then I get to focus on these other projects that are more day-to-day stuff. But in reality, I have way more fans with the Death stuff than Shaun King. Nobody cares that I have a podcast about Shaun King. I have to message people on Twitter being like, please care that I'm talking about this. But the Death stuff, people seek me out for it, and I'm like, I'll get to you when I get to you. So the merch store is a chance for the Death people to buy the Death stuff they like. Maybe 2 of you will buy a Bring in the Backups t-shirt or sweatshirt. And I'll have something for my stand-up, too. Some coffee mugs, maybe. Some magnets. A tote bag. A mask. I want to customize a mask that says, if you live in California, stop being a rat. What's the thing where they had, like, a number to call if you see your neighbors not wearing masks? Yeah, my mask would say, don't be a rat. Trying to get people to rat on their neighbors. Yeah, how's that going to turn out? God, Christ. I said I wouldn't get into politics. But what can I say, guys? I'm towards the end of the podcast. This is what happens. Happens? My wife got, not upset with me, but my wife's from Long Island, and she doesn't have like a thick Long Island accent until she gets drunk. And then it comes out. And I was like, are you, like, thinking throughout the day about not speaking with a Long Island accent? Like, where did it go? Like, that's confusing to me that people move somewhere or they start to surround themselves with people who aren't from where they grew up and their accent changes. And I remember I had an ex, she was from Northern Virginia, which is, like, where I spent a lot of my childhood. And then she moved down south, and I saw her like on a YouTube video just a couple years later after we dated. She's like, "Hi, y'all. How you doing?" And I'm like, "What is this, a comedy character? I don't understand what I'm listening to." So I asked my wife, I was like, where did your accent go? You must have had an accent. And she talked about, like, she went to school, she did acting stuff, she took dialect classes, which teach you how to, like, speak with I think it's called a standard American accent. So she was like, I think it just went away slowly with doing that stuff. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. Like, you train it out of your voice. But if you have a conversation with anybody about losing their accent, at some point it stops being a conversation about them losing their accent and starts being an existential conversation about somebody losing who they are. So I've learned that, because then I brought it, like, she was having a Zoom call with her friends, and I, like, hopped in the background. And I was like, hey, where are your guys' accents? And I saw it start to happen to them, too, and I realized people will get sensitive if you keep drilling on the fact that they've lost a piece of themselves when their accent goes. And here's the thing, too, is, like, I probably had an accent as well. I mean, born in Germany, South Carolina, Louisiana, and then I moved up to New Jersey when I was, like, 12. But I must have had something with my voice moving, like, for the first time to the Northeast when have already been alive for 12 years. Listening to people talk in the South, going to public school in the South. So who knows? I mean, I wonder if you listened to yourself as a kid talking, like, if you would hear it. Do you hear your voice sounding different? I don't know. It's an interesting phenomenon. And some people then fake it, and it's like Madonna moves to London and she's British in 3 months, and you're like, okay, how much of this is like it's a thing that just happens naturally? How much of this is also like you're a vapid, empty-headed person who's highly suggestible? Is there a level of social compliance involved in your accent changing quicker or slower than other people? I like Bill Burr. He's a Boston comic. He hasn't lived in Boston for 30 years. He sounds like he's straight out of Southeast. So it's like, that's what I'm curious about, is like the people who keep their accent, are they like telling themselves, don't lose the accent, don't lose it? Maybe I'll test it out. Maybe I'll move to Scotland when I'm 40 and then just see what my accent sounds like when I'm 50. 10 years is a big ass just to prove this dumbass theory I have, so I probably won't do what I just said. Let's get to our third and final pre-planned bit of the episode, and then we're going to get the fuck out of here. Check out this sweet, sweet, sweet pre-planned bit. Welcome back to another edition of On This Day in Backup History. Today we travel to Buffalo, the Hunter Biden of cities in New York State, for a backup quarterback. Todd Collins, distraught over an unsuccessful relief effort of future Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly, went to a local Buffalo bar. Always the jokester, it was there that Todd Collins, craving a Tom Collins, said, "I'll have one of me, please." The bartender didn't get it at all and gave him a beer. Todd Collins vowed in that moment he would do whatever it took to make a name for himself in the NFL. Then his agent called and told him he was cut. Boom, boom. Todd Collins went on to play pretty well for the Washington Football Players United under the Stars and Stripes. Stars and Bars! Oh my God, all my friends in D.C. are like, I've just been texting with them. They're like, what the fuck is happening, man? It's so crazy. I have a friend who lives right across from the hotel that all those loons were staying in. And he's like, something's going down, man. Like, it's so crazy. I'm not going to get into it. If I ever do have like I've told myself, like, I really want to try to support this podcast eventually with things like a merch store, with things like a Patreon, and just stay away from ads. Something about the ads feels icky to me, and, you know, I'm sure I'll eventually do them, but I'm holding off now. I'm more focused on building a thing here, bringing people in first. But if I was going to do ads, I'm going to do one of these ads. Like I've listened to a couple shows that talk about apps that will sort news stories by political bias and then force you to listen to what other people say and force you to acknowledge your own bias so that you'll see blind spots in stories that you'll just miss. Because so much of the problem with the news is it's such a big country. Everybody has anecdotal evidence for whatever they already think. So you can always just look at that and just never have to challenge your own bias. People need things that force them to do that. Otherwise, like, you'll truly live in your own world. I think if I ever do get like a sponsor for the podcast or if I'm going to do ads for something, I try to do something like that. I feel that's like the only way to be helpful. Not like anybody gives a shit what I think anyway. But like for my own, like, I feel like I'm putting something into the world to make it a little less tense in the country. It's like, here's the thing that I use to make sure that, like, I kind of know what's going on. Like right now I'm doing this thing called Flipside. I'm not going to give them free press. They should pay me to do it. But look, here's the I'm going to try to look for that. The promise I'll make as far as ads go is this. I will never advertise something on this show that I think is shit. All right, I did that. I already talked about timeshare on my last episode with Lucas for like 45 minutes. I'm not going to do it. But I never want to do that thing where I just do an ad so that I can collect a thing and it helps pay the bills. Like, it should be something that I'm using that I actually believe is fun or helps people. So that is the promise I'll make. You know, I guess this is kind of on topic because I've talked about finding ways to monetize this thing and whatever. That's my promise to you guys, is I'm not going to become some craven podcaster who drives the conversation into areas just so I can sell you guns. Like, I'm going to try to do it ethically so that anything I'm talking about on here or recommending to you guys is like a real thing. So yeah, whatever. Should end the podcast soon. I guess I should. I'm like self-conscious about talking about celiac stuff because I feel like this isn't bringing the celiac conference. It's bringing the backups. But I'm back in L.A. We're back off the road. I'm back to recording my podcast at my desk with my microphone in a familiar setup. I can see my dog. I'm not like wondering if my dad can hear me shitting on him upstairs. Like, it's good to be off the road, back home. But also, as soon as I got home, I had to get it's called an upper endoscopy, which is like where they stick a tube. Sometimes they do it up your asshole. I guess that'd be a lower endoscopy. But the upper one, they go through your mouth. So I had to go to the hospital and get this procedure done. And it's, you know, like I'm on the way there, I'm telling my wife, like, scatter my ashes in the Atlantic. Like, I'm just fucking being a baby about it. But when I get there, they just put you to sleep. Like, the scariest part is waiting for it to happen. And then you just wake up and you're like, you just had a nice dream and the doctor's waiting. It's actually pretty sweet. But the wait is not fun. And something they do at the hospitals, like, they have me, like, signing all the waiver forms, like, as they're wheeling me into the room, which is so weird. Because it's like, well, what am I going to, like, pull out a monocle that I was keeping in my underwear and look over all the fine print? I'm like, what am I signing here? What are you doing? Am I getting a prostate exam, like, after you're done with the like, what's happening? It doesn't feel right to make people sign stuff as they're moments away from having a procedure done. But I did have that experience, and I was just like, you're just like, whatever, man, just get me out of the room. But then here's the nice thing about the endoscopy. They put, like, a thing in your mouth, so it's like it holds your mouth open so they can put the tube down. But then they get you comfortable in the bed. They turn you over on your side. They give you a pillow. And then they knock you out. But, like, they basically tuck you in. And it's been a long time since I've been tucked in. I don't remember the last time I was tucked in. It was a good tuck in. It's like an adult. I remember my doctor was like an older Asian man. And he was like, how are you feeling? They moved the bed so, like, it kind of, like, tilted up like one of those beds you'd see in a commercial for old people. And he was like, how's that feel? Is that comfy? I was like, well, it doesn't matter. You're going to knock me out. You could knock me out, like, on a fucking cold metal floor. Like, I'm going to feel this for 3 more seconds. So, yeah, it's comfy. But it was, I just felt so taken care of in the moment. It was great. One time I passed out in New York. I was exhausted and dehydrated, and I passed out at the top of a above-ground subway station and rolled down the stairs unconscious. It's scary to talk about, but I woke up at the bottom of the stairs, and I couldn't talk, and people were called the ambulance or whatever. I had to go to the hospital and get an IV, blah, 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 blah. But the feeling right before you go, just the release of it. I've said many times, I understand why there's some people who can only come as they're getting choked out. I totally get that feeling of the surrender to it. Clearly the podcast has gone too long, and I'm delving into parts of my psyche that maybe people don't want to hear about. But there's something to the way there's a vulnerability when you're at the hospital. I broke an arm when I was a kid. I should say I broke my foot when I was an adult. I think what happened to my arm is I got my arm dislocated when I was a kid. I have a vague memory of that. I had a bad injury on my thumb one time that required stitches, but I was awake for them fixing it and everything. I've never been put under before, but you're please don't kill me. My life is in your hands. I'm getting hard thinking about it. Let's wrap it up. It's good to be back in LA. And I know that sounds weird considering everybody's dying of COVID in LA. Sounds weird to be back in LA. I feel good being in LA because, when we were traveling across the country, again, we did it as COVID safe as possible. But there's no question the safest thing to do would have been to just stay in LA, right? And I don't give a shit about people getting there. People got to make choices for themselves, and we made the choice that it was worth it to see our families, but to do it as safely as we could during a national crisis. But even in doing that, even in doing it following all the procedures and getting all the COVID tests we were getting and doing the wait periods before we saw family, even with that, we had close calls, people getting exposed and all that stuff. And just coming back to LA, even though it's a nightmare here, we really haven't left our apartment to do anything other than walk the dog and go have my procedure. Part of the reason we came back to LA is because I needed to have this procedure with my doctors here. Even just being back in the city where we've been living for 2 years is amazing. Because it's we're fully quarantined. I'm getting a lot of work done just because I'm back around my familiar settings. So I got to say, I think the podcast will be better not being in the basement of people's homes where I'm annoying them. Even right now, I'm recording, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm probably keeping my wife up, but it's our house. She knows I got to do the podcast, and I'm not lowering my voice to make sure people. It's I get to be free. I'm free. I'm free to record. That yell probably did wake her up, so I am going to get out of here. Guys, thanks for listening to the show. I'll see you in 2 weeks, hopefully. Thanks for listening to the show. To hear more Bring in the Backups or help us grow, please subscribe on iTunes or Apple Podcasts and leave a written 5-star review. Or subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube. For info on the show or how to see Erick live, visit erickhellwig.com to hop on the newsletter.